Defensively, what do the Celtics have to do? What will they do? Number one, we all have to embrace this. I believe I said it last week. I might have even said it yesterday. Luka is going to Luka. I walk into this NBA Finals 100% ready to say Luka is going to be good, if not really good. Because guess what? He's a spectacular offensive player. You have to walk into this series believing that Luka is going to score 30 points. He's going to give the Dallas Mavericks 30. That's what you have to plan for. That Luka's greatness on that end of the floor is just going to give this team opportunities, and that he's going to score 30 points a night. You go into this series thinking that. But here's the interesting thing. There was the Athletic story on the finals, and it was all about scoring and all of that, right? Luka Doncic is attempting to become the first scoring champion to win a title since 2000. Shaquille O'Neal is the last guy that won a scoring title and an NBA title in the same season. It was back in 2000. As a matter of fact, when you look at the history of scoring champions are 11-8 in the NBA Finals. Michael Jordan accounts for 6 of those 11 wins. So non-Michael Jordan scoring champions are 5-8 in the finals. That's all time. So just because you're the best scorer in the NBA doesn't mean you're going to win a championship. Because unless you're Michael Jordan, you're more likely to lose in the finals than win in the finals, even if you led the NBA in scoring. I really think the Celtics, their goal has to be to limit Kyrie Irving. You can't let Luka get his 30 points while you let Kyrie get 25, 28 points. You can't do that. You can't allow both of these guys to go off. You can't allow Luka to score 30, Kyrie to score 25, and somebody like PJ Washington to score 15. If PJ is scoring 15, Kyrie's scoring 25, Luka's scoring 30, you're going to have a tough time in limiting Dallas's offense. You're going to have a tough time in this series. You can allow Luka to be Luka to a point. You hope that Luka is scoring 30, but he's doing it in an inefficient manner. You don't want him scoring 30 points while dishing out 14 assists and shooting 48% from the floor. That is a disaster. You don't want him to be great, but you can allow him to score. You just got to make sure that you're working on the other guys and limiting them. Kyrie's not getting off. PJ Washington's not getting off, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, I look at Luka Doncic, and he's a lot of times inefficient, right? He takes tough shots. He loves taking tough shots. I said this on 98.5 last week. If people hate locally the shot selection of Jason Tatum, if you had Luka Doncic, you would drive yourself crazy. Doncic takes a lot of step-back threes. He takes a lot of pull-up threes. He takes a lot of those settle three-pointers. He takes a lot of those shots. So you've got to try to make Luka as inefficient as possible from the floor. Let him get his 30, but force him to take 20-plus shots to get that 30. Make it tough on Kyrie. Don't let him score 25. Don't allow PJ Washington to score 15 points. Don't allow Derek Jones to randomly score 15 points in a night. And I think the Celtics, they will throw numbers at Luka. I think Drew Holiday will defend Luka. Jaylen Brown will defend Luka. I would not be surprised if Jason Tatum defends Luka Doncic at times. I would imagine that the Celtics are going to throw anybody and everybody at Doncic. Make it as difficult as possible. Give him different types of players defending him. Give him Holiday, who's going to continuously dig at the basketball, play physical. Give him Jaylen Brown, who has a little bit more size and physicality than Holiday does, and let him deal with Jaylen Brown. switch Tatum onto him every once in a while because Tatum has the length that will bother Luka. Make it as hard as possible and throw numbers at him. You have the defenders. I wouldn't throw Derek White at him too often because I think Derek White is going to be on Kyrie duty. But all these other guys, you got to throw numbers at Doncic. You got to throw different looks. You've got to make Doncic take tough threes. You know, I was looking at some stats and notes from ESPN and The Athletic over the last couple of days. Luka Doncic, he has not shot between 37 and 45% from three in any playoff game this year. When Doncic beats that mark, he's 5-0. So when he's lighting it up from three, the Mavericks are almost impossible to beat. When Luka's making his threes, his tough threes especially, it's going to be a long night. However, when Doncic shot under 38% from three so far in the playoffs, when he shoots under 38% from three, which is a pretty high water mark, the Mavericks are 6-5. They are barely above 500 when Luka fails to shoot better than 38% from three. Keep that number in mind. The Celtics have to force Luka into settling for threes, taking tough threes. If Luka shoots 35% from three, the probability of Dallas winning that game is not high at all. You have a great chance of winning that basketball game if you keep Luka hovering around 35, 36% from three. All those percentages mean the difference in the world, from 35% to 38%. If Luka's shooting 38 to 40% from three, you're going to have a really rough night. We're talking about the margins here. Try to force him to take those pull-ups. Try to force him to take those step-back threes. Contest the shots. Make him inefficient. The other thing about the three ball and Doncic, he loves setting up corner threes. The Mavericks love taking corner threes. Doncic made 318 passes this year that led to corner threes. That's 71 more than the second most. The Mavericks attempted more corner threes than any other team in the regular season. And the Mavs are shooting over 40% from the corner three spot this postseason. Doncic loves to find guys in the corner. He loves to drive and kick, manipulate the defense, draw you in, and kick it out to an open teammate in the corner. He makes more passes to the corner than any player in the NBA. The Mavericks take more corner threes than any team in the NBA. And in the playoffs, the Mavericks are shooting over 40% from the corner. So what's that tell you? You've got to try to contain Luka, but you've got to also stay at the corners. You cannot leave the shooters. I repeat, the Celtics cannot leave the corner shooters. If they leave the corner shooters, if they get sucked in by Kyrie or Luka, and they're giving up those corner threes, the Mavericks are going to score points. And they're likely going to score a lot of points. You've got to make sure that you clamp down in the corners. You can't allow P.J. Washington and Derek Jones, and if Tim Hardaway plays a few minutes, you can't allow those guys to get good looks from the corner because that's what the Mavericks want to do. Here's the good news. The Celtics have been great at defending the corner three. That's the good news. So Dallas's strength from three is something that the Celtics defend very, very well. The Celtics were the best team in the NBA during the regular season defending corner threes. During the regular season, the Celtics allowed teams to shoot 35.2% from the corner. That was the best mark in the NBA, 35.2%. You know what they're allowing in the playoffs? The Celtics are allowing teams to shoot only 23.5% from the corner this postseason. Now, some of that has to do with who they're playing, right? Do those teams have great shooters? Do those teams have creators? This is a different team, different matchups. Luka's better than anybody in the NBA in creating those opportunities. But if the Celtics continue to defend the corner three as well as they have defended the corner three from game one through that series against Indiana, if they continue to do that, that is going to make Dallas try to find different ways to score. If you take that corner three away from their offense, they've got to find another way. And the Celtics have been very good at defending that corner three. You can't allow Luka to collapse the defense. You can't do it. You cannot do it. And I think the Celtics will throw the book at Doncic, not only with players, Holiday, Brown, Tatum. I think you'll see the Celtics switch at times against Doncic. I think you'll see them play drop coverage against Doncic. I think you'll see them play man-to-man. I think they're going to change throughout a game. They're going to probably throw even some zone at the Mavericks and Doncic. They're going to just consistently change it up. All right, I got a few more thoughts on the Celtics defensively against the Mavs. First, let's jump to a couple of super chats. Last 5 minutes in a close game, are you playing Porzingis or Al Horford? I'm playing Porzingis. As long as he's healthy, I'm playing Porzingis. I'm playing my best five. I love Al, but Porzingis is better. And Porzingis is a matchup nightmare. Al, not as much. And we'll get into that a little bit more tomorrow when I look at the Celtics offense versus the Mavericks defense. But let me just tell you this. The pick and pop with Porzingis, and of course you can run pick and pop with Horford, but the pick and pop with Porzingis is much more effective. Because Porzingis, it's much tougher to contest his shot because he's 7'3". And then number two, Porzingis has no issue taking a 26-footer. Horford has to kind of tuck himself up against that three-point line. And that extra space is all the difference in the world. And I also think Porzingis, defensively, he's a better rim protector than Al. So last 5 minutes in a close game, I'm rolling with Porzingis as long as he looks healthy. Kyle Kirk jumps in. I was about to say that Luka's passing is arguably just as dangerous as his scoring. He loves the lobs to Lively and Gafford. Yes. Kyle, I'm so glad you brought this up because it brings up my next point. If you are going to switch and double, if you're going to switch and double Luka, that's going to cause issues on the pick and roll. What Kyle brings up here. Derek Lively is very good on the short roll. He's very good because he can finish in the restricted area. He can finish at the rim, but he's also a very good playmaker for a big man. So if your plan is to switch and then double Luka Doncic, if Luka gets the basketball to Lively, that could be death for you. And remember, if you're doubling Luka, that's forcing your defense to rotate. And if you're rotating, if you get stuck in a bad rotation and Lively kicks it out to a corner for a wide open three, that's just death for you. So I do not think you will see a lot of the Celtics switching and then doubling Luka because that would open up Luka's playmaking ability. It would also open up Derek Lively's playmaking ability on that short roll. I don't think the Celtics want to mess around with that. You start doubling Luka, that's when the lobs, as Kyle brings up, that's when the lobs come into play. Because Luka draws that double and he lobs it up for Lively. So I don't think you're going to see a lot of doubling on Luka Doncic. I think you're going to see a lot of straight-up defense on him. If Luka beats you one-on-one, if he beats you with step-back threes, pull-up threes, if he beats you with mid-range jump shots that are contested, then by all means you tip your cap to Luka Doncic. What you don't want to do is allow him to start making plays for the other guys because now you're caught in that, and now Luka is using that to his advantage. That's why I said this series, fans have to be ready. You have to be ready to embrace the idea that Luka's going to score 30 points a night. And there's going to likely be a night he's going to score 40. You have to expect that. And it's not because the Celtics are playing bad defense. It's because, A, Luka is just that good. And then, B, I think that's going to be part of the Celtics game plan. You're going to throw bodies at Luka. You're going to throw different looks at Luka. But you want him to beat you single-handedly. You want him to play out of his mind and be almost flawless. You want to force him to take tough shots and sap his energy. If you start doubling, you start creating opportunities for the other guys. Now they get going. Then Luka gets going. Now you're dealing with a team that's hot. So I don't think you'll see a lot of doubling on Luka. I think the Celtics are going to tell him, hey, man, if you can hit tough shots, if you can shoot, 50% from the floor and 40% from three and average 30-plus points a night and also, grab 8 rebounds and dish out 8 to 10 assists, if you have that kind of series with how we can defend you with our defenders, at a certain point, you've got to tip your cap to the guy. But you can't allow everybody to get going. You can't allow the easy lobs. You can't allow the kickouts. You can't allow the wide open threes from the other dudes. You just can't do it. So I would not be surprised, and I expect a decent amount of drop coverage, at least early in this series, because the idea behind drop coverage is that you limit those kick-out threes. You limit the kickouts and you limit the lobs, especially if you have Porzingis in there. Porzingis, again, if you're joining us, Shams Charania broke the news this morning just before we went live that Kristaps is expected to be playing in Game 1. He's expected to be back. Unless he has some kind of a setback, he'll be out there in Game 1. Not sure if he's going to play 20 minutes or 40 minutes. I'd probably lean towards 20. But if you play drop coverage with Porzingis, he has the ability to stay close enough to contest those threes and also not get burned by the lob over and over and over again because of his athleticism and his length. So I think that the Celtics will play a decent amount of drop coverage. They will try to limit those kick-out threes we talked about. They will try to limit those lob plays at the rim for Lively. I'm not as worried about Gafford. I said this yesterday. I think Gafford could be played off the floor in this series because of some matchup issues. And if Dallas tries to switch, he's not nearly as good as Lively is switching against players like wings and guards. So I could see Gafford not play a ton of minutes in this series. I said this yesterday. I'll continue to say it. Maxi Kleber, I think you're going to see more of him than people think. So I think the Celtics are going to try to limit those lob plays at the rim to Lively. I think they're going to try to limit those kick-out threes, and they're going to try to force Luka and Kyrie to beat them in the mid-range. They're going to say, if you guys can hit those mid-range shots, it's very similar to what they did against Indiana. All those mid-range jump shots that Indiana hit, you tip your cap. They still swept Indiana. Even though Indiana shot ridiculously well from the mid-range, the Celtics won that series. By winning 4 straight, they swept them. It's just like when they went against the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Celtics were fine saying, hey, Evan Mobley, if you want to get a bunch of points inside the restricted area, have at it. We don't care if you score 50 points, Evan, because if you score 50 points in the paint, congratulations. We're coming back and we're shooting threes and we're making threes. So we'll give you those twos. And I think this is going to be very similar. I think when you look at how they're going to defend Dallas, they're going to try to force Luka to take tough shots. They're going to try to force Luka and Kyrie. They're going to try to funnel them to the mid-range and force them to make mid-range contested jump shots. And even if they do, the Celtics believe that their offense will create good enough threes that will make up that difference. And we'll get into the Celtics offense tomorrow and tell you how they can create those threes and some of the issues Dallas could have. But it's a very difficult challenge because Luka is so good. You can't be tempted by the bait. You've got to stay disciplined. And if he hits a bunch of 18-footers, good on him. I think that's what the Celtics will do. They will try to force Dallas to beat them in the mid-range. They'll take away those corner threes. They will not overreact to Luka, and they will force Luka and Kyrie to try to be a one-man show at times, right? Going back and forth with a one-man show, the dribble show, and hit those mid-range jump shots. By the way, speaking of Kyrie, Derek White's huge. If Derek White can defend Kyrie and make it uncomfortable for him, that would be great. What I want to see, honestly, is the Kyrie Irving dribbling show. Let him dribble for 18 to 20 seconds. Let him dribble the shot clock out. Great possessions are Kyrie Irving dribbling for 18 seconds and then having to take a tough shot against Derek White. If you have 5 to 8 of those possessions a game, you are ahead. You are ahead. Even if Kyrie makes some of them, you are still ahead. So Derek White, his ability to stay in front of Kyrie, to force tough shots from Irving, That's a big part of this series as well, because we know that White can challenge those Kyrie Irving floaters. Kyrie shoots with both hands, as we saw during his time here in Boston. White is going to have to make those little float shots by Irving tough, right? He's going to have to contest those floats. The right hand, the left hand, the little 15-footers, the dribble, the step back little dribble, 18-footer. Make those looks tough, because Kyrie's been fantastic. In the playoffs, he has shot 48.5% from the field. That is the best shooting percentage he's ever had in the playoffs, best of his playoff career. So Kyrie has been incredibly efficient. You have to make him inefficient. Derek White has to make Kyrie Irving inefficient from the floor. Celtics have to make it tough on Luka. If you force Luka and Kyrie to take tough shots and you turn them into inefficient offensive players, Dallas's offense is going to not be good enough. It's just not going to be good enough. By the way, Kyrie is also shooting over 42% from three. Can't allow it. If Kyrie is shooting 48% from the floor and 42% from three, it's going to be a bad series. So you got to make it tough.